Week 6 of the NFL season rapidly approaching. It's time to open up our 6-pack of picks, making picks for our 6 favorite games of the week with some injury designations. We've got quarterbacks out. We've got running backs maybe coming back, and a big one to start off on Thursday night for the West. All that and more coming up on today's Peacock and Williamson.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look at the NFL on the field and in the front office with elite breakdowns to next-level analysis and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Appreciate all the everydayers out there and all the new listeners here to Peacock and Williamson Daily. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. It really helps us out, or wherever you are listening to this podcast. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson, before we make our picks for Week 6, sponsored by Prize Picks. Didn't mean to rhyme all that, but it just happened. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL to use code, all lowercase, LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. All right. So the San Francisco 49ers are at the Seattle Seahawks. And this is an interesting one because after really upsetting losses for both of these teams last week, Matt, at 3-2 and the visiting Niners at 2-3. If the Niners win this one, we've got to tie atop the NFC West at 3-3. And this is a huge game for the 49ers, and I've been kind of circling this area of the schedule all year for the 49ers, Matt, to kind of set this up for you before we make our picks. This is the toughest stretch of the season. You go on the road at division rival, tough place to play Seattle Seahawks Thursday night. Now, the 49ers have done this Thursday trip to Seattle multiple times recently, and it's not an automatic win for the Seahawks here. And the Niners have played really well against the Seahawks recently, but it's still always going to be a tough game. Division rival, maybe the team you're battling for. That clearly now that you're looking up at the Seahawks if you're the 49ers, and you don't want to drop to 2 games below 500 and multiple games behind the Seahawks if you lose this game. If you're the 49ers, then you look ahead. You got the Kansas City Chiefs, then you got the Dallas Cowboys before your bye. These 3 games are always the games that we circle before the season, covering this team. That okay, this is a tough stretch. You need to bank some wins before you get here, just in case things go a little sideways. Well, you have no margin for error anymore if you're the 49ers. You can't let things go sideways, and it's going to be tough for a team that just lost to the Cardinals to get things right in 2 days without really any true practice before you go travel to face your division rival with a head coach that you haven't seen yet, with a defense that you had trouble with the Ravens last year as the 49ers offense. And so that's a tough ask, I think, for the 49ers to figure this out and get it all right. But when you look at the Seahawks, they've played one good team this year, and they lost that game to the Lions, and they're banged up front. Multiple defensive linemen are out or questionable in this game, including Murphy. Nwosu's definitely out for sure in this game. Derek Hall's been hurt. Boye Mafe's been banged up this year. So it's hard for, a new coaching staff to implement that Baltimore Ravens defense when you don't have any of your starting defensive linemen in there. So that makes that a little bit more difficult too. And obviously the Seahawks lost to the Giants last week. The Niners lost to the Cardinals. All that is to say, I don't know what the hell to think about either one of these teams, man.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. And I understand it's a familiar road trip, but it's still a difficult one. I don't care about the distance. It's just short amount of prep time going into a really nasty environment, national TV, loud, all those things. Hufanga is out, correct? And Warner is...
Warner played last week. He wasn't moving around at 100%. You could tell, which, 80% Warner is still better than most linebackers in the NFL. So if he can play, he's going to play. But, it's an ankle injury, short week. It's just, he's just going to have to rest up and, hope that he can play. I would guess that he plays. But, there's no guarantee. Maybe it's just like, man, I can't go on that short notice. George Kill's been banged up. He played last week. He'll probably play. The questionable guys I think are going to go, and obviously they're taking it easy this week at practice.
Real problems with protection with Seattle last week, and I would think you'd want to get back to leaning on Kenneth Walker and, that game plan. I don't know if Seattle wins the game, but I'm looking at 3.5. Is that what you said?
With the way the 49ers are playing, going on the road at Seattle, short week for the Seahawks to be getting points at home, I mean, this is just an auto bet to take 3.5 in the Seahawks, I think. Even though I think the 49ers can win this game, and the Niners have had the Seahawks number, and there's, a reason to believe the 49ers can win the line of scrimmages here and get out of there with a win. But, man, home dog, Thursday night football, and the Seahawks, even though I questioned some of their opponents and how well they've actually played with their 2-3 or 3-2 record, they've still played better than the 49ers and their 2-3 record. So I don't know how you don't. When it comes to money, I don't know how you don't bet on the Seahawks here and take those points at home, and they can still lose by a field goal. Or I mean, they can, So that you 3.5. I mean, that just seems like a lot here.
It does seem like a lot considering the circumstances. I think both teams have played about the same. I would say the Niners' offense has been a little better, but I mean, all in all, it's been similar type seasons. I'll definitely take the points, but I think the Niners squeak out a win.
And by the way, the 49ers, if these games are only 3 quarters long instead of 4 quarters long, they'd be 4-1 right now. In fact, they're a couple of plays away from being 4-1. So that they're a team that that has gotten leads and not been able to hold them either. And what's odd is the Niners haven't been able to stop the run in those games. In the Rams and the Cardinals, in those 2 really tough losses where the Niners had 2 score leads in the fourth quarter, those teams kind of were able to run the ball to come back in the game, which is just really strange. This 49ers team is weird. And so can the Seattle Seahawks do that to the 49ers as well?
I think that's a strategy, especially late in games on a Thursday night on the road. Fatigue will hit you,
Yeah. So against the spread, straight up, I think I might take the 49ers, but you got to take the points in the Seahawks here.
I 100% agree.
Next, we've got another London game, and this is an interesting one because the Jacksonville Jaguars should be the home team here. They've kind of built a little bit of a home base in London, but this is a road game for them, and they're going to play, quote unquote, at the Chicago Bears in London in this game, and it is the Bears that are favored. So this is almost like a home dog situation for me, and I am not so blown away by the Bears that I want to take the points. Am I crazy for wanting to take the 2.5 points and take the Jacksonville Jaguars in London, Matt?
I feel like you said exactly what I was thinking, that they're getting the benefit of still getting one more game in Jacksonville, but this is sort of a home game too. So it's almost like they get an extra home game out of their 17. And the Bears are doing good things, but I also didn't think the Jags were the worst team in the league before last week. And they did kind of turn a corner. One guy I want to mention, I mean, it's easy to look at Caleb Williams here as, a really promising rookie, et cetera. Brian Thomas Jr., I mean, wow, is he good? And I mean, and most years you'd look at him and be like, that's a rookie of the year type guy,
And by the way, with the hurricane coming through, Hurricane Milton in Florida, I mean, great job by the schedule makers working this out to not have a game in Jacksonville this weekend, and they're actually in London, even though this was a home game for the Chicago Bears.
In case it slips my mind, from what I understand, I know we're going to do Bucs Saints today. I think Tampa is in New Orleans already. Like they've been there a couple days.
Yeah, I'm sure they got out early because I think it's almost impossible at this point to get out from what I'm seeing in Florida. So, hope everyone's okay over there in Florida, and especially that Tampa area. So glad the league, doesn't have to navigate any games in Florida this week with the Miami Dolphins on bye, and then you got the Tampa Bay Bucks on the road at New Orleans in a dome, and then you've got the Jacksonville Jaguars in London against the Chicago Bears. And I just think it's going to be I think these 2 teams with the Jaguars and the Bears are just 2 teams that are going to have ups and downs all year, and they're not the worst teams in the league, and they're not the best teams in the league. But I think the Jaguars are better, and it's why I picked the Jaguars last week, because you're getting points. It's like, is this team that bad? Like we've talked about the Patriots, we've talked about the Giants, we talked about I don't know who else. The Titans. The Titans defense is actually playing really well. They're not in our list.
It is.
Who's the other team that the Dolphins without Tua have looked really bad? There's some teams that look really bad that I would probably pick the Jaguars over.
Yeah.
Even though they've got some things to figure out, and so at least they got on the right side of the win column last week and have a little momentum here going into a familiar place to play for them, which is I think it's as close to a home crowd as you're going to get in London right now is the Jacksonville Jaguars. So give me Jacksonville home dog. I'm calling it a home dog for the Jaguars.
Home dog on the road. So
Nico Collins out. Jabril Peppers out. We're talking Houston Texans at New England Patriots next. Nick Chubb might be on his way back. Practice windows open there. At the Philadelphia Eagles, who are big favorites. We've got Tampa, New Orleans that we talked about, and Matt's Pittsburgh Steelers at the Las Vegas Raiders. All that and more coming up on today's six-pack of NFL picks. This episode of Peacock and Williamson brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the place to play daily fantasy sports. DFS is so much fun, and obviously, Prize Picks is the place to play because you can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. And Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. Join over 10 million users when you sign up today. And by the way, there's a lot of users on Prize Picks because it's the most fun, easy way to play DFS, and you can play real money sports action. But you're not playing against those 10 million other users. You're just playing against the stat projections at Prize Picks. All you do is you pick 2 or more, and you say more than or less than on those stat projections at Prize Picks, and then watch that money roll in. And by the way, if you sign up today, get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive that $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. So if you think Justin Jefferson will get more than 83.5 receiving yards next week, or Jordan Mason's going to run for more than 70 yards on Thursday Night Football, that's the way to play. And when you download the app today, use promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get that $50 bonus instantly when you play your first $5 lineup at Prize Picks. Run your game. All right, we're moving on to the Houston Texans at the New England Patriots. The Texans on the road at the Pats, big favorites, as they should be. And a couple of interesting ones here. And Jabril Peppers, the league didn't know what to do, so that's what the commissioner's list is for. So Jabril Peppers, who's, assault and just weird stuff, awful stuff off the field that they're dealing with there, he's gone. They just make him kind of disappear for a while. So Jabril Peppers has been put on the commissioner's list, and Peppers may not practice or attend games while on the list. So he just is in limbo right now, Jabril Peppers. Now, does Jabril Peppers make a big difference for the Patriots team? He was one of their best players on the field when I've watched the Patriots this year. Yeah. And they don't have a lot of players like that on their football team, to be honest. I think they're my 32 out of 32. They're the worst team in the NFL right now. The question is, can a rookie come in and save the day at some point for the New England Patriots? And when is that? And is it this week?
I do think we'll see May. I think that the defense, which looked strong to begin the season, now doesn't have Peppers and Barmore and some of their other key guys, and has really fallen off and is a well below average defense. Houston's got some momentum. I think they go in there and smoke them. I got no problem laying the points here. Nico Collins on IR as well, but I don't.
Nico Collins, it looks like, let me get this right. So Nico Collins, due to his hamstring injury, so that means it's a tear, right? Because if you're going on injured reserve, you got to be out for at least 4 games. Yeah. And so now it's 4 games, and he's going to be, week to week and day to day at some point after that, I guess. Or he started at day to day, and then he goes to week, and then now he's out for 4 weeks, I guess is how it went. But and he's the NFL's leading receiver. And if you look at EPA per play for one quarterback targeting one specific wide receiver, number 1 in the NFL was that connection from Stroud to Nico Collins. So that hurts them. But guess what? There's still Tank Dell, and there's still Stephon Diggs. And I think their offense is going to be okay there. And this is the get right team. And if the Patriots can't block for their own quarterback, then it's a long day no matter what. Anyway, and I get it's on the road, but still 7 points. I think the Texans are a touchdown better than the New England Patriots all day, even without Nico Collins.
100% agree. We're agreeing too much.
It happens. It happens. We might not agree on the next one. What about the Cleveland Browns at the Philadelphia Eagles? The Eagles favored by 9 points. Biggest spread of the week are those home Eagles, who haven't looked amazing so far this year, Matt, if we're being honest, right? And they are going to welcome the Cleveland Browns. So it's the 2-2 Eagles, well rested, coming off a bye, against the Cleveland Browns coming in at 1-4. And Nick Chubb, practice window open. He's got 21 days to come back. I don't know exactly which day that started, but essentially you get 3 weeks of practice before you have to come back or you get put back on IR and you're on the shelf for the year. He's coming back, and apparently day to day, does that mean that day might be Sunday that he comes back?
Seems far-fetched, but, boy, they could use a healthy, the version we used to see version of Chubb in a big, big way. But you mentioned the Eagles getting rested. I'm almost certain Lane Johnson, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith all return. And we were talking about teams that are worse than the Jags or 32 on your power rank. The Browns are maybe both for me. And Browns or Patriots, I think, are the worst team in the league. It's the worst offense in the league. Watson's playing like he doesn't even care or is putting in any work. I heard Mike Lombardi saying it's like he's a lottery winner. Now what do I do with myself? I'm getting paid either way. Am I staying late and grinding the tape? It sure doesn't look like it. And then the players around him start to see that and say, well, why should I give it 110% if he's not, or he's never going to bring us back? I think they get embarrassed in Philadelphia, and I have no problem laying the points. I'd give you 10,
I hate this one for that reason, because where I point to, look, Watson hasn't been good for a long time. We haven't seen Watson play good NFL football since I don't know what year that was. Was it pre-COVID, 2019? What year was that?
I think so. I think it was 2020.
Yeah. So I don't know why we would expect great quarterback play there, and obviously you're going to have a rough offense if your quarterback's playing poorly, and everything else is not going well on the offense aside from the quarterback too. But it's the defense that really I point to. It's like, man, this was supposed to be a team where you're in every game because your defense is good, and what they were last year, even with the same poor quarterback play, even before there was quarterback injuries and all that. So they've really given up here. I feel like the Cleveland Browns after 5 NFL weeks, and we talked about how we thought Robert Saleh got a raw deal after 5 weeks, and I'm not saying people need to get fired because of this. But I am saying that people need to get fired in Cleveland who made the decision to do the Deshaun Watson thing, which isn't hindsight at all. I was like, that was a stupid move from the start, and that the
owner's going to fire himself.
Yeah, we crushed him for it at the time, but you're not going to fire the owner of the New York Jets, and you're not going to fire the owner of the Cleveland Browns. What two teams have had the longest drought of their home fans? I heard, Mike Greenberg, who's a Jets fan, talk about this morning, and I knew he's going to be fired up about the Jets firing Robert Saleh. And it's like, there's a reason that these two organizations haven't had their home fans able to watch a playoff game for well over 20 years, and you can't fire the owner. And so anyway, that's less about this week, but that's about every week for the Cleveland Browns. But this version of the Cleveland Browns does feel like a lot of people have given up, and
kind of hopeless. If they're not going to make a change, it makes it hard for me to go to work every day and give it my best. And you mentioned Stroud and Nico EPA per play. Bryce Young's the only quarterback below Deshaun Watson. I mean, that's how bad it is in EPA per play.
The questionable status I'm seeing for Lane Johnson, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. They've had a lot of injuries, and the Eagles haven't played great either. So after saying all that, I'm actually going to go the other way, Matt, and I'm going to take the points for the Cleveland.
Okay. Maybe the D comes to play, and Garrett played the whole game last week and had no tackles. He didn't even show up once in the box score. Just a bad sign. The defense needs to be good.
Yeah, maybe even get Chubb back, and he's able to do something for you here. And I don't know if that's actually going to be the case, but Stefanski, hold on. What's the quote from Kevin Stefanski here about Nick Chubb, by the way? I want to get this one right. He said, quote, "Anything is possible, but with Nick, I don't want to get too far beyond today." So that's where he's at. Anything is possible. We'll see. Probably not. Probably
maybe we
not.
get him a week or two, though.
The ugly game where it's 6 or 7 points instead of 9. So that's why I'm taking the points, because I just the Eagles aren't playing great ball right now either.
No, they're not.
Next, we're going to finish it up with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the New Orleans Saints and the Pittsburgh Steelers at Las Vegas Raiders in this week's Peacock and Williamson 6-pack of picks. This episode of Peacock and Williamson brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. NFL fans, you can start with a big return on FanDuel right now, because When you join, you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com. So go download the app or go to FanDuel.com. And speaking of FanDuel.com, by the way, when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can go check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place those bets at FanDuel.com. And then you can bet on any of the games this week. You want to bet along with Peacock and Williamson and the six-pack of picks. You want to bet on any prop bets, any Super Bowl winners, any offensive, defensive, rookies of the year, players of the year, any other sport imaginable as well at FanDuel. You can find all that action, and you can get $200 in bonus bets to play with guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's all you got to do. You don't even have to win that $5 bet. Just download the app or go to FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com. The next segment is also brought to you by Hillsdale College. Time is our most precious commodity, so don't waste it scrolling through the same mind-numbing content for hours and hours when you can spend it wisely and improve yourself. And our sponsor at Hillsdale College is offering more than 40 free online courses, including history and literature. And how about this? In the fine arts department, the history of classical music, Pythagoras through Beethoven, or mathematics and natural sciences, for example, the great principles of chemistry, mathematics and logic, from Euclid to modern geometry, and so many more. Again, we're talking 40 free online courses. All of Hillsdale's courses are self-paced so that you can start whenever and tune in whenever. Plus, you can go deeper with readings, quizzes, questions, or enjoy the lectures. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There's no cost, and it's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/lockedon to register. Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the New Orleans Saints. The Bucs on the road, favored by 3.5 points now. And this is a really weird Saints team where they look like a powerhouse to start the year. And is it an example of a team just getting figured out? Because they've looked like a completely different team the last 3 weeks.
I think that's some of it. You know, the new offensive coordinator took things by storm, lost your center. I mean, things like that get overlooked, but that can go a long way in what I think is a suspect offensive line to begin with. I like the Tampa's in town already, and I really think these are pretty equal teams when Carr is out there, but Carr's not going to be out there. Not that he's a superstar, but I think it's a massive drop-off to Haener. There's even some talk that Spencer Rattler could get in the mix. I don't love that from a Saints perspective. And their key to winning this game, which is something they could do, Kamara's having a great year, is run against a pretty bad Bucs run defense. I just don't know that that's enough. I like Tampa here, and I'm going to lay the points. But tough place to play, rivalry, all that stuff. Maybe it's a tight, ugly game.
Tough place to play when you've got your starting quarterback. And as you said, after Monday Night Football, and by the way, short week for the Saints to get whoever's playing quarterback ready. You said Jake Haener looked like a high school kid out there.
Yeah.
And, and then you're like, okay, well, let's go to the number 3, who, by the way, wasn't good enough to be the backup quarterback over the high school kid, and Spencer Rattler. Maybe he's more physically talented, has a better arm. Is he going to do something for you there? Or, and so, but it's like when you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none. When you have 2 backup quarterbacks, you have none. Or does one of these guys show up for the Saints? I don't know. 3.5 is just not enough here when I think that is at least equal. Maybe Tampa should be favored by a field goal anyway, or at least a pick'em game. But without Carr here, which, by the way, he's not only supposed to miss this game, he's expected to miss multiple games with an oblique injury that he suffered against the Chiefs on Monday Night Football. So that's not great news for the New Orleans Saints, whose season looks so promising to start and is starting to kind of slide a little bit out of control for them in New Orleans. Yeah, give me the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 3.5, no way. That's scaring me off. The Pittsburgh Steelers, Matt. Talk to me about your Pittsburgh Steelers. We're going to start hearing some more rumblings about Russell Wilson, right, as the Steelers lose some games. And you have the great time for the Pittsburgh Steelers to go face the Las Vegas Raiders, by the way. So there's another team that is in that mix of Patriots. And you know what? Actually, after this podcast, I think I'm going to go fill out my power ranks here. So this is I'm going to talk
That'd be low.
Las Vegas. Without Devontae Adams, things feel like really awful for them right now. They are 2-3, and they are hosting the 3-2 Steelers. Steelers favored by a field goal on the road at the Raiders. But they looked bad last week, and locker room problems, and players want out already. That's just a bad combination of things, and a team that I didn't think was super talented coming into the year. I don't know if I'd put them behind the Patriots, but man, they might be 31 right now for me in the NFL.
Really low.
Talk to me about Steelers, Raiders, and where the Steelers at? Russell Wilson's name's trending on my Twitter right now.
Yeah, you're going to get O'Connell, it looks like. You're going to get no Adams, no Christian Wilkins. I mean, their stars, other than Crosby, are compromised, to say the least. I think the Raiders run the ball about as poorly as any team in the league. The third-round pick, Glaze, the right tackle for Maryland, is going to have to block TJ Watt. But the Steelers have a lot of injuries, too. Like, all the other edge guys besides TJ Watt are out of this game. Highsmith, Herbig, Leal, they're all done. The backup running backs are out. Warren and Patterson out. So the Steelers have their share of injuries too. They've been shuffling O-linemen around. That looks like that's starting to get a little more solid. As of this time of recording, I don't know who the Steelers quarterback's going to be. Wilson is practicing in full, so at worst he's the 2, and maybe he would even see the field if Field struggles and gets to start. I personally would lean towards Wilson, but I understand both aspects of it. Steelers were not impressive against Dallas, and their offense has issues, to say the least. And Pickens is upset and all those things. But I honestly think 2/3 of that stadium is going to be wearing black and gold. I'll lay the points, but it's a decent number. I don't love how the Steelers have played lately on both sides of the ball.
It's too bad for the Raiders that Devontae Adams has that bad hamstring right now, because they could probably use that firepower on offense. Listed as a hamstring injury for Devontae Adams, by the way. I'm with you on this. I have some questions about what we've seen, especially offensively, from the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't think it matters who their quarterback is all that much.
Yeah.
But again, you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none. So you shouldn't, the fact that you would be questioning who the starting quarterback is going to be is usually not a great sign for a football team. I'm taking the under all day on this, and I just went away from the screen, so I don't know what are you looking at the over under by any chance right now?
I just exited out too. I'm sure it's low. Every Steeler game is always low.
It's not like 13 points, right?
No, but it could be.
Which makes you want to say home dog. You take the points, but I'm not going to. I don't believe in the Steelers one or the Raiders one bit.
Me neither.
And I think it's a good get right game for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I'm going to give up the 3 points as well. Although you talked me out of picking the Dallas Cowboys last week, Matt. You said I would regret it if I changed my pick, because I originally wanted to go with the Steelers, and then I was. On Friday, we're like, maybe I'm kind of going the other way right now. You said, nope, you'll regret it. So maybe I should start fading the Steelers, because now they're hurting me. But I'm going to stick with them one more week, Matt, with your Pittsburgh Steelers. And I'm going to give up the 3 points here at the Las Vegas Raiders, because I think the Raiders are a complete awful mess right now.
Yeah, this to me, I think we're on the same page, is more about the Raiders than the Steelers. Like, when we do Power Weeks ranks a week from now, they might be 32.
Over under, by the way, 36.5 points. That's an easy under for me.
Under. This could be 13-10. This could be 10-3 to your point. Yeah.
Could possibly Russell Wilson help George Pickens on my fantasy team, Matt? If they made that switch quarterback?
Possibly. The Steelers take a lot of shots. That's an Arthur Smith thing. And Fields was like 0 for 6 of long balls last week. That's one thing Wilson does do well. Yeah,
it's one of the best things he does.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't mind some moon balls too, George Pickens, and maybe with the semi benching or whatever it was of George Pickens last week. Is he his mind
he was
right?
Only out there. He was only out there one snap when 2 receivers were on the field.
Weird situation.
It's dumb. I mean, that's a great way to lose, to be honest with you, when you have no receivers except for that guy. Either bench him totally and discipline him, or play him and live with it.
I would love that home dog right now if things weren't so weird also for the Las Vegas Raiders.
Real weird. I'm not sure about Pierce either.
Yeah. I mean, you were supposed to be like the locker room guy, and to start the season, your best player wants out. Like, that's not a great sign.
No.
And it sounds like you're like, okay, cool. Like,
Yeah,
Okay.
and they interview Max Crosby, and he's kind of like, that's just what happens around here. Whatever. I don't know.
So
But-
strange.
What?
Again, talking about you can't fire the owner either, right? Jets,
Exactly.
Browns, Raiders.
Yeah, I don't see a lot of wins in the next 5 years for those teams.
And obviously, they still can't figure out their quarterback thing either on the Raiders side. And I would take both Steelers quarterbacks over any of the Raiders quarterbacks.
I think it's the worst quarterback situation in the league. Well, maybe the Browns because they owe him $100 bazillion.
And Aiden O'Connell lost the job to Minshew, so they thought Minshew was the better quarterback coming into the year too.
And they've pulled him twice.
Yeah, not great at all. They got to figure something out. Maybe they figure it out this week against Steelers. Who knows? I'm not going to put my money on that, though. Let us know what you think about our picks. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'll be back Friday to continue making the rest of our picks for the Week 6 schedule. And tomorrow, it's mailbag time, our Thursday mailbag, as we do every single week. Hit us up at BD Peacock, at Williamson NFL. Drop a question in the YouTube comments and subscribe while you're there. Matt and I back tomorrow. Peacock and Williamson.